Hi, good morning, and welcome to Mission Karmayogi and Karmayogi Talks. This is our 45th talk, and we are very privileged to have with us Ashish Chauhan. And for many of you who may not know who he is, Ashish Chauhan has been at the center of India's stock exchanges. He's currently the MD and CEO of National Stock Exchange. He was the CEO and MD of BSE. He was involved in the founding of NSE. He was involved in setting the first screen-based trading in India, mobile trading, mutual fund distribution, etc., etc. He's really considered the father of modern financial derivatives in India. So we are very grateful that he's going to spend some time with us. Prior to that, he was also a member of the University Grants Commission, Chancellor of University of Allahabad. He's on the board of IIM Calcutta. He's an IIT graduate. And one of the most interesting things is he also was the CEO of the Mumbai Indians IPL team for many years before he came back to the NSE and BSE. So I won't go through all the awards that he has won, but let me just end by saying Ashish is a wonderfully interesting person who has done many different things in his life and is at the center of making India a financial powerhouse around the world. So with that, Ashish, welcome. Thank you for taking time to talk to our team, and please feel free to talk in English, Hindi, etc. Let me start out by saying, when you started your career in the financial markets, can you just take us back and what was the financial stock exchange in India and what were financial markets like 20, 30 years ago, and how have they evolved? What are some of the big changes and how has it evolved to what it is today?
No, thank you, Adil, for inviting me to this fascinating Karma Yogi talks, and congratulations on doing 44 of them before. Wonderful to be here, guys. In some ways, Indian stock markets are almost 200 years old. Officially, they are 150 years old. The first stock exchange in India was set up in 1875, which was known as, or set up as a Native Share and Stockbroker Association, just outside Asiatic Library, which is now known as Horniman Circle, on the corners of a round place. And largely the cotton traders set it up, who were like doubling up as stockbrokers also. And then they became big. But overall, 1875 is what we consider officially the time when India's stock market journey began. Interestingly, we may trade in stocks, but we would not actually intuitively understand what is a stock. Similarly, we may ride a bicycle or a scooter. We wouldn't know much about what actually makes them run. And that's why it's important, especially when it comes to finance, to understand what is an equity or a stock or a share. All of them are used synonymously, including something called script or a script, depending on what you speak. These are all, some of them are colloquial, some of them are actually English words, right? So share, stock, scripts, all are used interchangeably in all television channels, and even in Hindi channels for that matter, or local channels. And basically what it means is that there are two types of finance which one does. One is what we call giving debt. We give debt to our neighbor also, sometimes in form of, say, giving a bowl full of sugar. That is also a debt which the person has to return someday by in some other means, by making gulab jamun and giving you. But effectively, that's the debt part of it. And then there is a partnership, which is what makes basically somebody a partner. So shares are largely about being partners, but they are of limited liability companies. It means that whatever money you have put in to partnership or those shares only are liable to go in future, not necessarily your home. While as normal partnerships, which have been there forever, your house also may go. But a new framework came about around 600-700 years back and then evolved. And that became limited liability company, where a lot of people could put in their money, but their money was restricted to the amount they had paid to that company for buying those shares or subscribing to those shares. So broadly, I just wanted all of you to be aware that when you buy shares of a company, you become a small little partner. Sometimes you can become a big partner by putting more money. And once the company makes profits, then that profit is shared amongst partners in the proportion that they own in terms of the number of shares, right? So that's broadly the framework. And what it does, it gives you upside in the sense that if the company starts making great profits, then naturally the share prices of the companies are expected to grow, and that's where you make a lot of money. Whereas in debt, what you give is 100, it's supposed to give you 5% interest year on year, then you get only 5% and not more normally. Whereas in equities, there is an upside. In debt, there is no upside. But both are traded on stock markets. One is traded as debentures and other things, which is what we call debt, and equities is the partnership, kind of a partnership, but limited liability partnership, and that's where it works. And so 1875, all these things started. India's industrialization was kicked off by some of the companies. Some of them actually even now are alive, like Bombay Dyeing and a few others. And later on, Tata's came and many others. So effectively, those companies have continued for more than 130, 140 years, even 150 years. And over a period, a lot more companies started collecting money from public. And not only Mumbai, which was the first place to start this, later on it started in Calcutta, then in Ahmedabad, then in Delhi. So these were the more than 100-year-old exchanges somewhere around in 1975, 1990. There are 4 exchanges which were more than 100 years old. And then there were 19 more exchanges which had come up in uh, many places like Hyderabad and Patna and Kanpur and many other places. And that's where basically uh, India had 23 exchanges in 1992. And India also had decided post independence to become a socialist republic. Now, socialist countries actually close down their exchanges. That is the first thing, because the exchanges are considered capitalist. And that's where usually they close them down. If you look back at Europe, which became part of Europe that became socialist, all exchanges were closed down, even in China, everywhere. But India, as usual, we didn't do everything fully. So we didn't become socialist republic fully. We just wearing that on the paper. And we continued the stock markets, stock exchanges. At the same time, they were not considered very well run, because they were the what I call they were owned and operated by stockbrokers. They were almost always a not-for-profit, but association of persons or not-for-profit company run by the brokers, of the brokers, for the brokers, democracy as we call it. But in stock markets, there are 3 players. One is the investors, which is the largest number, whose money is invested in the companies. Then the companies come, and then the brokers. But brokers were at the center, and that's why they used to run it. They used to own the exchange, and that was till 1991, 92. And India didn't do so well while being a quasi-socialist, I would say. And in 91, we had a serious issue on balance of payment crisis. We had to also send out our gold to UK. And that was my actually first job from just out of IIM Calcutta as an employee of IDBI. IDBI today is known as a bank, but it was the largest financial institution of the country those days. And it had set up many other institutions like Exim Bank and SIDBI, and literally even SEBI and many other sort of places. And that's where IDBI was told post Harshad Mehta scam in 1992 to set up NSE, because in 91 this liberalization happened, and market prices started going up. People thought.
So Ashish, just to interrupt. So in 1991, India as a stock exchange, in comparison to stock exchanges around the world, how would you classify it in terms of size and technology?
India's exchanges, like other exchanges, were broadly what we call floor based. Floor based means you had a large floor uh, where people used to get together, and then this was sell, this was buy, this was like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like that. So broadly, they had developed a way to talk to each other in the middle of a lot of noise, because thousands of people would be there on the floor. And you had a badge which said your number was like 391. The other guy would have probably 543. And then If he's selling, you are buying, then you write it in your book, which is to be called chopri, and then they go back and report to their bosses what they did. Later on, um, sort of it would be reconciled and it would take a long time. But effectively across the world, it used to be the same. In The first exchange was set up in the world in Amsterdam, called Amsterdam Stock Exchange, somewhere between 1602 and 1607. But technology remains same, although the computerization slowly was happening in terms of the back office. And in some ways, India was also doing some of that, but India was way behind the automation that was happening. At the same time, the new exchange had come up in US called NASDAQ. There was a New York Stock Exchange, there was a Chicago Stock Exchange, there was a Philadelphia Stock Exchange, and there were many more exchanges. But a new exchange which came about, which was not an exchange, they used to call it quotation system, and that's why it was called NASDAQ. The Q part in the NASDAQ at the end is actually for quotation, electronic quotation, and there people used to place their views, the market makers, people who give two-way quotes on the screen on the computer, and it would be disseminated via telephone lines to people across New York and DC and other places. And then if you call, I mean, if you trade, you have to call up that guy who had placed that order, saying, I want to trade with you. And so it was not fully computerized, but it was a little sort of better than just going on the floor and jumping with each other and trying to make some meaning out of what you were doing. But still, it was not fully computerized. The London Stock Exchange was also floor-based, and it had tried to create an automation which matched the orders as they came in automatically, and they failed after spending £1 billion in 1989, 1990. The project was called Taurus, and India had set up a similar system like NASDAQ in the form of OTCI in 1991. And by 92, 93, it was realized that it was not working out because it was designed only for the new companies, very small companies, only high-tech companies, which were very few in India those days. And that's where even OTCI also had failed. And in that context, in 92, when this Harshad Mehta scandal opened, many of you might have seen those TV serials called On Sony Leave. That Harshad Mehta scandal opened, and the government, which was thinking that it's the liberalization process, which was making the prices go up of stocks, they were taken for a rude surprise that it was actually the Harshad Mehta's taking money out of RBI in some clandestine way and putting into stocks which he liked. And that became a stock scandal. It was in some ways also a RBI kind of a framework which allowed him to take money, but naturally stockbrokers were running it very badly. And then the government had set up several committees from 1985 onwards, which had recommended a separate exchange which will at least act as a model exchange and trade at least in debt, because that is where the RBI's Harshad Mehta scandal had come about. And so they said we need to streamline the debt part. And that's how the concept of NSE was mooted by last committee that was called Fairwani Committee. But before that, there were similar ideas that had come from 1985 onwards. And so in 92, it was decided by the government of India that NSE will be formed, which will be called National Stock Exchange, and it will be completely automated. Now, the fact was, it was a dream of some policymakers who were very far, who were thinking very far ahead. But in a way, they had not taken into account India's technology issues, because we did not have even good telephone lines, not only in Bombay, but across India. And it would take you 5 years to get a telephone line at a home, and then to make it work every day, you have to do a lot of things with the linesman. And so in that kind of a context, to have a nationwide electronic order matching system, which has to be available continuously in a very high-speed way or a fast way, it was like a dream only, not necessarily that it will be successful. And so brokers who were and broker-run exchange were very clear that these guys are bankers. They are not even brokers. They don't know what they're talking. They're talking like bureaucrats. Liquidity doesn't come without the people talking to each other on floors or taking each other's clothes out, kind of stuff. But and of course, the IT systems don't work. It has failed in US, and even OTC in India failed, UK failed. So how on earth India will be able to make it run when there are no telephone lines. And one telephone line of 64 kilobits per second. Now, today, all of you are used to 2 GB downloads and all. But those days, 64 kilobits per second lease line from say, Nariman Point in Mumbai to Worli in Mumbai, which is like less than 5 kilometers, would cost you 4 lakh rupees in 1993. And it would cost you literally 40 lakhs if it was between Mumbai and Calcutta. And in that context, we designed a satellite telecommunication system first time. We had India had said a lot of satellites, but we were not using them. So I designed that, we started using that, and that's how finally the NSE, as we know now, actually was born. But India's IT system was born with NSE. India's IT prowess was also born with NSE because there were no large IT companies before NSE actually came about. There were no large projects which India had done. I recall only one project which was sort of large and had been done was the railway reservation. But railway reservation was only for the within the railways, for the railway tickets to be booked. But NSE was actually with the public, with brokers, for them to trade on across India. And that is where it was the first digital public infrastructure of India. It was the first fintech of any type in India. And whatever you buzzwords now you define today, they were all there, but none of us realized that this is going to be so big. So 92, we were told, I was like a 24-year-old, just first year into the job. Probably I was selected because I was the youngest and also an engineer, although I was a mechanical engineer. I never worked as an engineer. But that's how sometimes, if you don't know, probably you make things work. If I had worked in IT before, or if I had worked in stock market before, probably, and then this would not have come out the same way, because you get used to the constraints the system puts you on, and then you think those constraints are real, while as we were like clean slate. And that's where when we designed the system, it actually was completely out of box, because we had no clue as to what doesn't work. And that's where we invited RFP from across the world. That is request for proposal. Then we divided the entire RFP into two parts. One was for the equities, for the trading part, other was for the communications. And the trading part, hardware, software, the entire turnkey project was given to TCS. And the telecom part was given to HCL with a joint venture partner in US. And TCS also had a joint venture partners in US. And that's how finally the automation was set up. But when it worked, I had done the appraisal of the project. And if you could do 10,000 trades a day, because in the biggest days of Harshad Mehta, the BSE wouldn't be able to handle 10,000 trades a day. They could run only 2 hours a day, because they couldn't trade more hours because of the manual activities and the problems it will create. And if we had done 10,000 trades a day after 3-5 years, we would have been great. But we started that on November 394 on equities. We started around June, July in the debt. And the debt part somehow came down faster. But the equities, we started November 394, Diwali day. And many people tell that Amavasya, you cannot start. Diwali is Amavasya. Anything new. But my boss was insistent we have to start on Diwali day. And his name was Dr. Patil. He's our founder. And that's how we started that on Diwali day. First day, we had probably 700 trades because many people were trying to be first traders in that new market which was coming up. And then next day onward, it became 200, 300 trades, which was like very small. People knew that it's not working out. Rumors would be coming that satellite has fallen or there is a default on NSE and things like that. Nothing of that sort happened. But rumors would keep on coming on our business. Currency is rumors. So it continued. People were sure that we will fail. But somewhere, I think after 5-6 months, in 1995, we started on November 395. But in 95 middle, there was a tiff between Reliance and BSE. Reliance was
And Ashish, if I can, so today, how many trades a day does NSE do today? You said If somebody did even 2,000, that was tough in those days. So how many trades do you do today?
So today we do, on a good day, we get 2,000 crore orders in a day of 6 hours and 15 minutes. So it's like, just give you a comparison, in UPI is a great success, right? And they do 1,500 crore orders in 1 month, 24-hour days. We do 2,000 crore orders in 6 hours, 15 minutes. Sometimes we
Wow.
do 50% of all orders in the world coming to stock markets, although our per transaction numbers are I mean, value is very small, but the number of transactions are very large. Similarly, in terms of the match trades, we do sometimes 28 to 30 crore trades a day. So
So
this is like
Ashish,
the
today,
largest exchange in the world.
after setting up this new computerized exchange, Ashish, today you're saying that India has the one of the leading stock exchanges in the world in terms of automation. On some days, you're doing 50% of all trades that happen in the world.
Yes, please. And
Wow.
our automation is what we call frugal automation. Similar sized activities in US and Europe would cost probably 100 times more. But because we are in India and we have very smart engineers, and that is now you can see why India became what it did in IT, is because we are able to sort of take the same hardware cost actually more in India compared to US. Uh, but the way we use it is what makes that difference. And that's why I have a complete confidence that the ingenuity that India displays time and again on creating solutions which are appropriate to itself and also very low cost. And it's in terms of the sort of the size of information we handle is not handled by US or European exchanges. In US and Europe, they have something called a framework called omnibus framework. That is, the exchange doesn't know which person is making the order. Only the broker is known. So if there are 500 brokers in New York Stock Exchange, the exchange only recognizes those 500 people. In India, I recognize all those investors. So today I have investors, 11.3 crore unique investors, 22 crore plus accounts. So each person is having average two accounts, like each person is having average two SIM cards. Similarly, 11.3 crore people are having 22 crore accounts. And I have investors in every pin code in India except in 28 pin codes. And out of those 28 pin codes, most probably 25 are airports where nobody stays full time, so I can't do KYC. But we do KYC for every investor we register through our brokers and even KYC companies. But basically, I have investors in the remotest corner in Ladakh, or I have investors in the remotest corner, even in Andaman Nicobar Islands, or in Arunachal Pradesh, or in Dibrugarh, in just outside Dibrugarh. So everywhere where sometimes it takes 3-5 days to reach, I today have investors, and that is a heartening thing that the financial addition, which happened through UPI and 4G, 5G networks, it has now ensured that in last 10 years, when Mr. Modi took over in 2014, India had 1.67 crore investors, 1.67. Today, they have become 11.3 crore investors, almost six and a half, 7 times. Similarly, India's market capitalization was around 73 lakh crore. Today, it's a 443 lakh crore. So again, 6.5, 7 times more. So effectively, and when when NSE started 30 years back, India had a million investors probably, and market capitalization of around 3.8 lakh crore. Today, 443 lakh crore or 444 lakh crore. So that's like a 120 times jump or 100 and sort of 11 times jump. So whatever has happened in last 30 years is no less than a revolution. And there is a theory in economics which says that low per capita income countries cannot have a well-functioning stock market. Why? It's because the poor people cannot save. And if they save, they don't trust their brothers also. So they put money in fixed deposits or savings, or they put money in gold, but they will not give it to somebody else sitting somewhere to run business on that and become their partners. And so India, with its now $3,000 per capita income, is actually an outlier. And our today, we have 25%, 24.3% women out of 11.3 crore people. And that kind of density of investors is nowhere there in any country, up from $3,000 to $6,000 to $12,000 to even $24,000. That kind of a free functioning capital markets are not there. Today, we are the fourth largest market in the world after US, China, and Japan. And in terms of the Chinese markets, when they go down, government goes and buys. In India, that doesn't happen, right? It's a fully functioning free market. And that's where India is unique. It's a low per capita income country, but a very vibrant uh, sort of markets. And we even our debt market is almost $500 billion with commercial paper and debentures and other things, which is almost uh, 40% of the bank credit to Indian corporates. So it's that we are also supporting India's corporates on not only in equities, but also in the debt. Last year in 24, calendar year 24, in NSE was the largest IPO market in the world with
Oh, really?
19.6, yeah,
Wow.
$19.6 billion raised only in the equities IPO. But overall, we raised, I think, $270 billion or 17 point some lakh crore, including the debt, because debt actually is raised more and repaid more. Equities are less raised, but today with almost uh, almost four or I mean 440 lakh crore is almost $5 trillion, $5.16 trillion. It's one third of India's wealth is now what I call a wealth of trust. A person sitting in Jorhat or Dibrugarh or Ladakh is putting her hard-earned 1,000 rupees in a company which the textile plant in Salem in Tamil Nadu. She's never going to visit, but she has a confidence in that entrepreneur, that entrepreneur or a manager will work hard, make profits, will not siphon away. And when that profit comes, some portion of that profit will be actually her profit and will be coming to her. It's such a great leap of faith. It's such a great trust that has developed between India's entrepreneurs and India's investors that 20% of all households in India now invest through NSE into stock markets, into 2,700 companies, and one third of India's wealth now is represented by NSE.
At least going forward, if you look ahead, you know, PM talks a lot about Viksit Bharat and 2047. So, given how much you have accomplished, or how much India has accomplished in equities and debt, what do the next 20 years look like to you?
For
What is
me,
going to change?
yeah, for me, I mean, somewhere I think 92, 91 was a decisively different period. India took off, and also the technology kind of came to a level where India could take advantage, Indians could learn and also provide that framework to the world. And India grew in last 30 years on the back of NSE. In fact, today, if you look at it, India's banking system I mean, India's stock market is almost 1.8 times larger than India's total banking system. When NSE started, it was the other way around. And that's telling you that India grew on the back of NSE, that it created a market of a trust. And that trust is now going to take India very far. The smallest people, even people are raising 3 crore, 5 crore rupees for their companies from NSE. And there are people raising 20,000 crores, 30,000 crores for their companies, yeah, including government, of course, from NSE. So effectively, literally every entrepreneur is going to create sort of a framework for wealth creation for himself, but also for the other shareholders of the companies. And for me, I mean, I have thought about this entire framework of what is going to happen in the next 25 years, next 50 years, next 75 years. What I've seen is that the technology is the only wealth creator. There is no other thing that creates wealth. And technology used to come in waves, and waves used to come very slow. And that's where also it required a lot of capital. We were capital starved because we were subjugated for 1,000 years. And now, when technology race is being run, we are at the forefront. After 30 years of hard work, India has come to the level where in AI or in biosciences, in genetic modification, in drones, in defense, in exoskeletons, in robotics, anything, most of the thinking is now happening in India. Most of the execution comes out of India. Whether it's Microsoft, work happens here. Whether it's Google, work happens here. Whether it's ChatGPT, work will happen here. Apple work will happen here. And so, and that is true with finance and with whatever, right? So effectively, India is going to be at the forefront of technology. Technology waves are coming faster, which means the wealth is going to be created faster. And the new technology doesn't require too much of wealth, too much of capital to be invested to create more capital. It requires less capital. So, but you can create great capital. So I call it capitalism without capital. And so India is actually having these three, four things. Of course, all these things is possible only if the population is technology savvy and young, because young people learn newer things, not old people, right? And so India is the largest young country. If you look at Japan, it has become old. China has become suddenly old. India is in the middle.
So,
If you
Ashish,
look,
can I ask you, how is NSE preparing for the age of AI? How are you using AI to make the exchange even better?
in a way, AI is currently in infancy, but for me, AI is also going to be like electricity. 100 years back, when electricity was actually coming out, nobody thought that electricity is going to make me talk to you remotely, or somebody sitting in uh, Timbuktu will be listening to me after 3 hours, but it's or 3 days. It's largely thanks to electricity, right? So electricity is the horizontal, which took 100 years to spread across the world. AI, because it's happening in an age which is faster, it democratizes things faster, and of course, the incremental cost is close to zero. It's going to spread out rapidly into newer things, but it also has its own. I mean, it is like a tool. You have to use it as a tool rather than as your master. And that's where basically at the same time we get used to the tool, and then that's basically a fallacy of the humankind. But broadly speaking, NSE is not only preparing itself because today there are many more sort of people using technology to do wrong things also. And so we have to worry about the attacks coming out of using AI onto our platforms on technology. AI also cloning, uh, in a way, a person's voice and person's face. Like last year, there was a AI based clone of mine, which was telling people to join a WhatsApp group. And it was done so well that people were actually joining in droves, and we had to actually go to court and take injunction against all social media companies, which have now agreed to take out all the sort of clones and other bad things in 36 hours in Indian code. But effectively, one side is to ensure how people don't get taken for a ride by bad promises or giving them wrong information. At the same time, within NSE, how do we use it in such a way? Because current AI, the way the large language models work, they have a tendency to also hallucinate, that is, create wrong, not factually correct answers. And so you need to have a supervisor on sitting on top of that. So we have like people working with listing prospectus when a company files its prospectus. We have now people passing it through the AI, getting all the points compared by AI, and then you get sort of the human supervising gets reports saying these are the things you need to look at, and of course they can look at more. And similarly, even in writing computer programs, we have programs which, if you tell them in a human language now that I want it in say C language or a Java language, the computer itself will generate the program you want. Or if you have X old program you want to convert into new program, that it will be able to generate. Or even test scripts. That is, when you make programs, software programs, you also need to test it from 1,000 different ways. And so you need to make the test scripts which will pass on those sort of odd things
Yeah,
into the software. So
great.
we do it in like even writing things. We do use AI in a big way, but not in matching, because matching, if you want to buy, let's say 100 rupees, 100 shares, and I tell you that you have bought at 101, you're going to be not liking it because you wanted to pay maximum 100 rupees, not 101. But AI will match because AI doesn't have that kind of an understanding that 100 and 101 are although similar, but not exactly the same, right? Or and stuff like that. So that's where we can't do it for what we call deterministic tasks today. But someday, over the next few years, we'll be able to also use it for deterministic activities. But today, NSE is the largest user of IT in India, and by miles. By there is nothing even remotely close, and that's why NSE will be at the forefront of technology of this types when they come about, not only in India but across the world. Today, if you ask a question to say Google or a Facebook or Twitter, they don't give you right answer. They give you answer which they want. Can I give you answer I want? No. I have to give you when you place an order 2,000 crore times in a day. I have to create the order book 2,000 crore times a day and give entire country a new order book for NSE, a single order book for NSE without any mistake, right? So otherwise, it'll create a chaos. And that's where,
So
of course,
Ashish, let me just move you to another part. I know we don't have that much time left, but I do want to cover one part, which is you've been involved in markets for a long time. Many of our listeners who are in the government, in central or state or urban local bodies, actually don't think very hard about savings and investment. They all work very hard at their jobs, and most of them have not really thought about what to do. I know you have a lot of training videos on this, but any advice that you can give, given that you've been around the financial markets, at what point should people start thinking about financial planning? And how is it different when you join the civil service to when you're there for 10, 15 years to when you're about to retire? Any advice you can give
no,
them?
I have gone through this myself. Both my parents worked for government of Gujarat. And I come from a Gujarati medium school also. But basically, none of them, because once you join government, you think your income is going to be safe. Every month or month, you are going to get that income. And when you retire, in it is their days, they used to get pension. When I joined the PSU, that is IDBI, I had again the same issue that I was getting my salary, however low, but I was confident that I will get my pension at some stage and life will be okay. But what has happened is slowly, whatever money we save other than our provident fund or pension scheme funds, which I still do, uh, whatever we actually save, most of us are not very savvy in understanding that a day not getting good interest rate is actually that much money lost. So, for example, you have a 1 lakh rupee and fixed deposit gives you 7%, and savings bank account gives you 4%. If you don't keep that 1 lakh rupee in fixed deposit, in a year you are losing 3,000 rupees. And it is so lethargic of me that many years I have not put money in FD. It used to lie in savings, and the banks get that money for that 3% extra. And what has happened is over last so many years, especially 30 years since when I started Nifty on a base of November 395, right? So 29 years, that 1,000 rupees, if you had invested in Nifty, it was started as a 1,000. Today, that Nifty has become 25,000. So effectively, you got, if you had invested 1,000 and just done nothing, you would have got 25,000 rupees. And then you would have got interest from those stocks. So it would have become actually 30,000 rupees. So if you had invested, say, 1,000 rupees in Nifty, you would have currently got 30,000 rupees in your hand if you had sold it. I mean, if you were to sell it today. But if you had put money in, say, fixed deposit, after the tax and all, you will probably be getting 5,000-7,000 rupees from 1,000 rupees in that 29 years. And similarly, if you had put it in gold, it would have become probably 15,000-16,000 rupees. Because if you look at the compounded annual growth rate, that has become around, even in dollar terms, but in just the rupee terms, with dividend, I think it's 12.9% on Nifty side. And probably 5 to 6% in the fixed deposit, 7% on gold. So you are missing out on a very large upside. But the fact is, the equity is also very volatile, right? So we are all afraid that, I mean, it's my hard-earned money. I want it remaining. I don't want it to go down. So my suggestion is, young people also should invest in equities. I mean, of course, we don't have time. None of us have time. We work full days. We have families to handle. So go through mutual funds, go through portfolio management schemes or expert advisors, and invest in not one company, but 10, 15, 20 companies and invest. See, many times we think that buying in the morning and selling in the afternoon is called investment. It's not. It's actually trading. All the television channels, all the WhatsApp will try to tell you that buy this and sell that. And if you want to buy even a telephone, a mobile phone, we do so much research. But when we have to put in 1 or 2 lakh rupees into a stock, we just get tips and we start putting money. So please don't do that. Stay there for a long time. If you don't have time, go with a mutual fund or a portfolio manager. But do invest 10, 15% of your assets into equity, so that even if it goes down, sometimes they have gone down in say global financial crisis, it had gone down almost 40-50%. Even COVID first phase, it had gone down 40-50%. But today, uh, pre-COVID and post-COVID is like 5x or 10x, right? So effectively, you will get good returns if India continues to grow. And for me, there is no country on earth which can grow faster than India in next 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. World is going to create great wealth using technology. And India, because of its young population, like as I was starting saying, Japan is old, China is old, Europe is old, America will remain old if Mr. Trump does not import Indians, especially smart Indians. But effectively, it's the India which is going to create that wealth, the Indian young population. And you are actually in the right place, right time, without you're doing much, but continue to invest. Otherwise, India will move forward. Foreigners will take money out of us because they are putting money in our young people. We are not putting money in our young people and our our businesses, and that's where I think huge wealth is going to be created. And some portion, don't put 100% of your money, or don't borrow and put in money, but try to be there, say 10, 15%, 20% maximum in equities using mutual funds or index funds. Like I invest in index, and I'm not allowed to invest in stocks because of the way, the place I work in. But I invest through index funds, which actually are the mutual funds with very low charges in an annual basis. Like it's almost uh, 10 basis point. That is on a 100 rupee, 10 paisa. Whereas the other mutual funds might charge you, say, on 100 rupee, 1 or 2 rupees a year. Whereas this ETFs, we call them exchange traded funds, they charge you 10 paisa. And they invest in a like a Nifty or a bank Nifty or next Nifty
Yeah.
kind
Ashish,
of
let me just
indexes.
so what I was going to suggest to people is this is a important and interesting conversation, and that on the NSE website there are videos that explain all of the different investment methodologies that I would encourage people to look at, and also on Karmyogi, on iGot itself, there are 2 or 3 programs, some from NSE, that talk about how should one think about investments for a civil servant when they start, for civil servants who have got 10, 15 years of work, and for people pre-retirement. And I think, Ashish, you would encourage all of them to at least get some information from that so that they can think about investments intelligently
Absolutely.
as they
And
go forward.
you are most welcome. We conduct almost 14, 15,000 investor seminars a year. So any group of people want us to do that, please write to me at ashish.chauhan at nse.co.in. We'll ensure that our people approach you and create an investment seminar for all of you. And we don't teach you which stock to select. That is not something we would want you to do, because you are most probably a beginner, you are not an expert. Go through expert, but how to plan for your retirement. And it is the same problem as me. I have seen uh, literally the senior most civil servants at the end of their career, just 1 or 2 months before the retirement, calling me to their offices saying, Ashish, now you suggest we are getting so much money in our PF and all, what we need to do. And I always, of course, organize there for them to meet some financial planners and all who can advise them. But I also tell them that at least now that you are retiring, before retirement, tell your young people in your department to start investing in a kind of long-term asset. You have been like me. I am also pretty old, but so we are not used to that sort of taking juice out of every rupee we have. But youngsters, I think, have to learn that. They have to become more financially savvy. And that's a responsibility not only for yourself, but also your family's future. So be aware and take appropriate decisions going forward.
Ashish, I want to switch topics again in the last 5 minutes that we have. I noticed in your bio that you've had a very storied career in addition to working the financial systems, which is you were managing the Mumbai Indians. And, of course, given that we're all a cricket crazy nation, can you talk a little bit about what was it like to manage a cricket team in the early days of IPL? And what did you learn from that is helping you manage NSE?
Anyway, IPL, I mean, I was the head of IT for Reliance Group for very long, and also the public relations. And I used to play cricket too for very long. So naturally, the boss knew that I was into cricket and I'm like a fanatic, like most people are in India. Uh, and so we used to chat up on cricket some days. And when so Reliance Group bought that cricket team. At some point, I was told to manage the ticketing because I knew the IT and I will I was there for some time, so they knew I can distribute the tickets. And then within few days, I was told that I am the CEO also, in addition to doing my IT job and other public relations job. So that's how I started managing the IPL as a business. Of course, the cricket team is one of the parts of that business, because you have to sell even the advertisements on the T-shirts, and you have to fill the stadiums, and you have to ensure the clean toilets are available, and food is available on the seats, and people who have bought a particular ticket, they get to sit in those places, and security and all the sort of paraphernalia that goes with that. But naturally, you are the CEO at the who is probably earning 1/10 of the lowest person earning in the team. So you are like the CEO of the stars, right? Stars are earning much more. They have more money. They have more sort of skills compared to what your skills gets in terms of the money. But also they are very humble people. Those young boys, 20-year-old, 25-year-old people who are earning now 27, 28 crore rupees. Those days they were used to earn 3, 4 crore rupees, but that was like very large compared to my entire life savings or my salary by miles. And I used to have annual salaries. They used to get it in 35 days. But their dedication to their profession and the concentration that is required. One day, I was sitting with Sachin. I had taken the team to South Africa in the second season, because when you are in Mumbai managing IPL, you are too involved to sit with anyone. But in South Africa, we had all a lot of time. And so we were both sitting in the evening. And I said, Sachin, how do you focus when his son and my son used to go to the same school? He's 5 years younger to me. And I said, boss, when your son is falling ill and your wife is screaming, how do you go inside the sort of cricket ground and you play a ball with 150 kilometers per hour speed? So he said, once you go inside, you have to forget everything. Whether you made 100 centuries or not, the next ball is what is going to be important today at this point in time. And then after that ball is over, one more ball is important. There is no other focus, no other thinking you have to do. And that kind of focus, that kind of concentration, there are many, many such examples of those young men, very young boys who are very, very well skilled but well behaved. Many times we hear in newspapers that they are misbehaving. I would take it with a pinch of salt. Sometimes the PR guys generate those kind of sort of issues. But overall, it was a phenomenal experience just working with them, seeing those people so focused and so talented in their life, because at 150 kilometers per hour, 99.999% of Indians can't even look at the ball, right? And that ball has to be played to whichever corner of the ground is a phenomenal skill. They are normal looking human beings, but they are Superman in many, many ways, right? And so we need to start appreciating people who are reporting to us. Officially, they reported to me. Their boss's boss reported to me, but naturally, you are their facilitator rather than a sort of a boss, right? So that's where I learned to be sort of a servant leader. And I was always a servant leader all my life, because I tend to do things myself in when things don't work out. Of course, I also delegate a lot, but in cricket field, you have to delegate because you are not going to play, and if you play, it will be worse, right? So you have to learn to delegate. You have to create the team. You have to trust them, and so many other things you learn. But most important things you learn from them is humility. Those boys are phenomenally humble.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on a wide variety of topics. And thanks for advising all of the civil servants that they should start thinking about financial planning from the day they join, not that the day they retire, and that there are many resources available to do that. And also for highlighting how far India's stock market has come, India's equities and debt market. And I'm sure most people didn't realize that NSE handles 50% of the trades in the world on a particular day. So this has been fascinating, Ashish. And of course, then also thank you for talking about your time as leading the Mumbai Indians. And good luck. And we all look forward to continued returns from our Indian equities markets. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.